sort of unprecedented in every unprecedented way. But I think coming out of, as we sit here at sort of, let's call it, day 120, I think several things have happened in the startup ecosystem, right? Let me specifically focus on the startup ecosystem. I think first, companies went back to the basics, literally starting sort of towards the end of March, if you recall. I think we had chatted right around after lockdown. And what I mean by that is, they started really focusing on unit economics. They got their cost structures in line. They started spending a lot more time improving their products, rethinking their go-to-market models and so on and so forth. And I think, it's remarkable to see how many companies have significantly improved their underlying unit economics over the last, call it 4 months, right? And the first thing I think we're going to see after, and never have we seen this in India, in the Indian startup ecosystem, is that quite a number of companies are either going to get to break even or actually going to get to profitability over the next, if you look at the next 120 days, right, to the next 4 months. And I think that's a very, very important and very special sort of change that we've seen in our ecosystem. I think we've talked a lot about how, in many ways, the last 5 years have been characterized by growth at any cost, pretty much in every ecosystem around the world. But we've seen a very, very significant shift. In that it's a shift that actually started towards the end of 2019, but with the onset of COVID, companies had to go back to basics, dramatically reduce their cost structures, get their unit economics in place. So I'd say that's probably the single most important change we're going to see in our ecosystem.
Digital payments, yes, we're off to an explosive start. We're teaching the rest of the world. It's so advanced, but there's a lot that's left. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about that? Because I know a lot of entrepreneurs and startups that are tuning in will want to know what it is that you think, what else can be done.
I think there are two very exciting things with digital lending. First is account aggregator. For those of you that are, fintech startups that haven't really gotten up to speed with account aggregator, it's something that you really should get up to speed with account aggregator. What account aggregators will do is essentially it will give the access for, let's say, me as a user, right? I have a lot of data. I have a couple of bank accounts. I have my telecom bills. I have a bunch of other bills that I pay, or financial transaction, call it transactional data, primarily financial transaction data, plus a few other sort of transactional data like telecom bills, etc. What account aggregators will give me the ability to do is at the click of a button, I can share all my data, in a secure way with, let's say, a new company that wants to lend to me. So today, if you think about it, one of the single biggest moats or competitive advantages lenders have had is, they have access to a lot of data that I have, right? Now, what account aggregator does is it gives the power of sharing that data to the consumer. So now I can decide that, if company XYZ, let's say startup XYZ, wants to actually lend to me either for personal lending or for a business loan or what have you, I can immediately sort of, at the flick of a button or flick of a keystroke, really, share that data with that lender. And now obviously they can underwrite based on that data. So essentially it democratizes the underlying data that is required for underwriting. And now what OCEN does, which is the Open Credit Enablement Network that Nandan Nilankani announced yesterday, that iSpirit is actually going to have an open house about over the next couple of days, is going to create a set of protocols where it's going to become super, super easy to be able to reach the absolute last Indian, be it the Kirana store, be it the street wala, or be it the be it a 28-year-old who's in a remote part of India that wants to start a company, right? So I think digital lending which has actually been, although we've come a long way, again, it's very, very early days, is going to literally grow 10x, right? In many ways, what UPI did to payments, we're going to have the same sort of thing happen to lending, which I think is going to be very, very interesting, right? And similarly, insurance, you'll see a set of changes that will happen. In wealth management, you'll see a set of changes that will happen. So, segment by segment, what you're going to see is these sort of protocols and platforms that will get rolled out. And the amazing thing about India, Nayanthara, is these are all, public digital shared infrastructure, right? And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand is this, it's an Indian miracle, right? I mean, no other country has actually seen this. In fact, Sundar Pichai last year, who's the CEO of Google and Alphabet, actually wrote to the US government saying that they should do something similar to UPI, which is quite remarkable.
Hey Rajan, while speaking of Sundar Pichai, he's not just talking, he's put money where he believes is the next area of growth. I'm of course talking about Google's massive investment in Reliance Jio, how it also wants to invest in India, the $10 billion commitment that has come in. In fact, during the lockdown, we've seen a massive thumbs up for the opportunities in India. Google's done it, Facebook's done it, Jio platforms. Look at Sequoia. Sequoia went in for a massive fundraise as well. The question I want to ask you is that if the sharks are here, what are the young entrepreneurs and startups supposed to think?
That's sort of the Geo miracle, which is they raised $20 billion essentially during COVID, right? I mean, I don't think it's ever.
It makes it more special.
You know, it's extraordinary, right? It's extraordinary. I mean, think about it. No other company. I mean, by the way, so Geo single-handedly has raised more capital in a period of 30 or 45 days than all venture capital funding that actually came into India in 2019. 2019 was the highest, was the peak year in terms of venture capital funding over the last decade in India, right? $14.5 billion came into venture capital, and Jio, over a period of 45 days raised basically $20 billion, right? So I think it's, as you said, it's a great testament to the potential of India, right? Look, I think as entrepreneurs, this is actually very exciting, right? Because if you think about what's happening in India, all the rails are being built. And at the end of the day,